Hey, what is going on, guys? This is CodedSteele, and we are going to finish the rest of the clock timer example that we did not finish last time because that video was just getting way too long. So the last example we had left was the web timer that I was talking about. And for the web timer, we had to do something a little bit interesting. I actually had to find a link to a URL somewhere that constantly updated the time. So you guys can see here when we refresh, you can see the seconds change and the milliseconds change and whatever else over here. So we can see that it is indeed updating. This constantly gets updated every second or whatever. It's probably getting updated a lot faster than that, probably in the milliseconds range. So this is where we pull our web time from. This is the link where I'm going to pull the web time from for our application. I actually had a previous link, but I guess they took the server down. So this is what we have to work with now. But anyways, our application will constantly query that link. So you guys can see here that big huge long link is indeed in here. I'm not going to turn around and post that anywhere. It's in the application. All you got to do is just load the AIA file that I posted in the previous video, and we'll post in the description of this video as well. And take that information and you can copy it and use it for your own application. But if we turn around now, we go back here, there's something specific we have to do to query that web server like that. So similar to what we did before, we turned around when the screen initializes, we read the timer and all that stuff. If we start out on web time, obviously on our initialized clock block, which gets called down here with the clock type, we are going to initialize this one right here, which is the web time block. And we're going to enable the clock counter and a web count, a variable called web counter, which are obviously they're both Boolean. Why do we need a web counter for this one and the timer as well for this one? Well, the reason why is because there's a pause when we pull this information from here. So if we look over here at our example, this is the web stuff right here, these blocks. Whenever the timer fires, which if we check the clock here, it's every 10 milliseconds it fires. Going back into our blocks, so every 10 milliseconds this block is going to fire. Well, when it fires, it's going to do a web1.get, and it's basically just going to pull all of this information. It's going to pull all of it, the whole slew of it. It's going to read all of that. And it's also going to set the timer to false. Why do we want to set the timer to false? If we don't, and I leave the timer enabled, every 10 milliseconds, this is going to constantly query that server. So we might get a ton of web requests going out. Well, I don't really, for stability's sake, I don't want a ton of web requests going out until I'm able to get a web request back. So basically the way it works is I turn around, I do a request. As soon as I get the information back, then I'll allow the timer to fire again. So only after I get information back will I allow the timer to fire again, and that's just for stability's sake. We don't want to turn around and constantly have issues with our logic here, where we're waiting for, we're sending out 100,000 requests and we're, not getting them back. So I want to turn around and stabilize that kind of, and that was the best way to do it, was with a web counter variable and the clock enabled as well. So to do the web counter, we had to do something a little bit different. It's similar to the phone time, but we had to do something a little bit different. First of all, you guys can see we're getting this whole mess back here. I need to parse this out somehow. So what I did is built exactly that. I built a parser to go through and search this garbage. Now, not garbage. There's obviously there's content here. There's information here for the specific stuff that I want. So for example, I'm looking for the day. Well, I used the split function here under the text portion to look for day, and in the response content, which is this mess, which we're getting back, look for day, split it, and then what it'll do is it'll take the stuff after day here, and actually after the colon, and it'll make this index 2, and the stuff before day, and it'll make that index 1, and day will get eliminated. So day won't be part of the string at all. That gets eliminated. up to the colon, so all this stuff will go away, and what will be left is this stuff at index 2, and then this stuff at index 1. So we can throw away the index 1 stuff. We don't care about it because all we're doing is looking at the day. And then what we do again is we split it at the comma. So now we just have 25. And then we take that part, or 25 becomes index 1, and then the rest of that becomes index 2. And then we just take index 1 and assign that to our day. We have to do a similar thing for the month. It's literally the copy and paste and just change the word to month, copy and paste, change the word to year, copy and change the word to hours, minutes. You get the idea. So once we have all of this information, we have to build an instant in time. Basically, we have to build. We have to build an instant in time. How do we build an instant in time? Well, if we look at our clock example here, we're able to build an instant by putting a month, a day, a year, hour, minute, and second all together. We can actually make an instant of time from the phone clock. Why do we need to do that? I will get to that in just a second, why that we need to do that. But we have all of that information, so we put it together in much this same fashion. So that's what all this is. This is our month, this is our day, this is our hour, our month or day, our year, hour, minute, or second. Putting that all together and then making an instant out of it. And then once we have our instant, we pull milliseconds. So I don't know if I just talked about this, but our timer 2 uses a similar approach here, but actually going the opposite. So this, we have to build our instant and then extract our milliseconds. The other one, we already have our instant and we're just extracting our milliseconds because the instant's built off the phone clock, which is the clock 1.now. Clock 1.now, if we look here, that is our instant. So this is essentially a building of this using the web timer, whereas this is always based off the phone clock. So we have to build this in order to extract our milliseconds. The reason why we do that is because it's very hard to take into account dates and times and months and all this stuff changing. If I'm able to turn around and create a millisecond instant with respect to January 1st, 1970, which is an ongoing counter that continues counting on from 1970. It's every millisecond that has occurred since 1970. I can use that as my reference to calculate how much time has passed. It makes the math and the logic a lot easier to do it this way than it would ever be to try to account for days, leaps, years, and all this other crazy stuff in your app. It's almost borderline impossible. You could do it, but there would be so many ifs, else's, and conditions going on. It would just be not worth your time, which is why it's very good that the developers of App Inventor put this type of a block in here. They really were thinking ahead as far as different things that you could do. So there's a lot of power here in this block. Once we have the instant created, we extract the milliseconds from it, which, like I said before, is an instant in time measured as milliseconds since 1970. So this relates it back to your phone clock and then converts into millisecond. From there, all the code is exactly copy and paste of the phone timer, with the exception of this stuff right here. The global web time, instead of phone time, milliseconds, it's global web time. So that's the only exception, is I'm trading this variable in, the phone time variable, in for the global web time variable. So that's all traded in. Same, otherwise it's the exact same code, exact same logic, exact same everything. It works the exact same. So very similar. And otherwise, that's really it for the code here as far as how all this stuff works. I guess now we'll just turn around and we will demonstrate the application here and go through what all this stuff does. So we already talked about the in-game timer example. In-game works if I lose a life, my counter only counts when the application is open. And what I mean by open is it running in the background. So I just hit the home button. It will still be running in the background, so the timer will still be counting. You guys can see it did clock down seconds. However, if I hit the back button, it exited at 42. If I count down 41, 40, 39, 38, 37, 36, I go back in, it's still at 42. This is a 100% timer that is built into the application. It doesn't base it off the phone time. It doesn't base it off of WebTime. So disadvantages. There's already one huge disadvantage you guys can probably see from this. The application always has to be running in order for the counter to go down. Why could that be a problem? Well, I mean, you have your app open, it's consuming resources, which ultimately means it's consuming battery life. So it makes your phone slower, makes your battery life go down faster, a bunch of bad stuff, obviously. But these are the compromises we have to make based on whatever timer you guys want to have, in your application. So downside to this one is doesn't keep counting when you close the application. You have to leave the application open. However, it does not require the internet, and it doesn't use the phone time, which means there's a phone hack that you guys can use to cheat the phone timer, which we'll talk about here in just a second. So that's that one. Nice and easy. Another example is the phone timer example. The phone timer example is based 100% off the system clock. So right now it says 9:02 on my phone. It's 9:02. The application is using 9:02 as its 9:02 and plus the seconds after it as its timer. So if I go home, still counts. If I close the application by hitting the back button, which I'm going to do right now, and go back in, it's still counting. You guys actually saw that. It updated right away. 9:08, 08, 07, 06, 05, 04, 03, 02, 01. So we should be somewhere around, there you go, 02. You guys can see it still counts, even when I hit the back button. So that's the advantage. That's kind of this one summed up in a nutshell. Advantages and disadvantages. Advantage. It can count when the application's closed and it doesn't require the internet. Disadvantage. One huge one. It can be cheated. I don't know if you guys know, but there are a lot of applications that base live counters. One example I can think of right off the top of my head, and I kind of hate to say this, but Candy Crush, if you guys have played Candy Crush at any point, Candy Crush bases their life counter 100% off the clock time. So all you need to do is go into your settings and modify your timer, come back in, and it resets your life count. The same thing works with my application. The application I built here is if I go in and I set the thing 1 hour ahead, your life will get reset to 3. I can't demonstrate that, however, because every time I tried to record this video before, I would change the system time, and it crashes my team viewer. I don't know why, but it must time sync somehow, so you guys will have to demonstrate that on your own time. All you have to do is go into your settings, go into your date and time, which should be way at the bottom, at least it is on my phone. Click on the date and time, and then switch automatic off, and then select the time manually, and you guys will see that you can indeed cheat the phone into thinking that stuff has passed. If I hit lose a life, you guys can see that it counts down my lives all the way down to 0, and then I can't lose any more lives. Same thing, once it gets to 3, you can't gain any more lives. So now, as soon as this counter counted down, it would reset or not reset, it would count up to 1 life, and then it would start the timer again at 59.99. So I did look through this. I have tested it in a bunch of different ways. It does appear to work 100% of the time when you leave it set to that specific method. However, I have noticed that, like, for example, I'm going to switch to the WebTime now. I have noticed that it resets your lives to 3 when you go between WebTime and phone time. This isn't really a bug, because it is kind of a bug, but it's not a bug at the same time. These timers are not really designed to work together anyways, so I didn't really bother going in and trying to figure out why this is happening. There is something in here that is preventing the timers from remaining the same and all that. However, similarly, if I turn around and I count down my lives, it does work. That was an accident. It does work the same way. It gets to 0, and it will count up to 1, 2, and 3, 100% based off the web time. So I don't think I really need to go too far into detail with the web time, but here's the advantages and disadvantages of that one. I guess we'll go into it since we discussed the other ones. Advantages to web time. You can't cheat it. it's a time on a server somewhere. It counts whenever the application's closed. So if I shut the application down, it will constantly be counting. It's counting on a server somewhere. And all the device is doing is pulling the time off that server somewhere. So it's not having to turn around and look for that time anywhere on the device. It's pulling it off of a web server. So if I close the application and I open it back up, it's going to continue right where it should be. Not right where it left off, but right where it should be, because it's the server time that we're using. So you guys kind of saw that it's at 54 right now, 53. If I come back in, it's going to turn around and it's going to start 4 seconds. Obviously, you guys saw that jump from 53 to 49. It jumps from where the actual server is in the counting process. So obviously, large advantage there. You don't have to worry about it being cheated. One disadvantage, and it counts when the application is closed. Disadvantage, you need an internet connection. So for those of you who want to run an application without an internet connection, you're going to have to use one of the first two timer examples, which both have flaws depending on what you're trying to do. Anybody who knows about the life counter hack, where you can turn around and set your system time forward, they can easily cheat that and reset their lives. Just so you guys are aware of that. But, I mean, that's how a lot of applications work anyway already, so you're not really losing much there. But if you guys tried to create some content where somebody would have to buy more lives or something like that, it's very hard to do that if somebody knows about the phone timer hack. So anyways, I think that's everything with this application. It's pretty straightforward. For the most part, you guys are only going to use one of these examples for your specific application. So when you go to do that, all you're going to do is gut the 2 clocks that you're not going to use from this application and keep the one you are going to use. So obviously clock 1 being the in-game timer, clock 2 being the phone timer, clock 3 being the web timer. You would keep whichever one you were going to use for your application and then get rid of the other 2. I think that's just about everything I wanted to discuss for this video. We have hit 3,200 subscribers. Thank you guys for helping to grow our channel. Like I said, I 100% strive to try to meet as many requests as I can. I am working on an activity starter tutorial, and I actually am I'm thinking about trying to get that up tonight as well, right after this video. So we'll have another video on the activity starter, and I'm also working on a Firebase video as well, which was another viewer request. I know I'm keep putting these off. These are more complicated examples, and I'm trying to get stuff going. Activity starter, I didn't get too much feedback from you guys. I think a couple people said just do a basic activity starter, so that's what I'll do. I'll just pick and choose what I think you guys might want to know how to do with the activity starter, and those will be the examples we do with the activity starter. Please keep up with the suggestions. I told you guys before, I'm willing to start taking requests privately. If you guys want want me to work on stuff for your application, we can negotiate some kind of a contract between the two of us between me or you, whoever decides to take me up on that, and I can help you with whatever it is you need help with privately if you don't want that disclosed. Obviously in a tutorial video, but as always, I will take requests, and we don't have to work out any kind of a contract. I'll just post it and show everybody how to do that specific example. All right, please like, comment, subscribe, keep the suggestions coming, and I will see you guys in our next App Inventor tutorial.